So I asked the chatbot, what are the best things to do when it comes to experiencing pain when you're actually in the moment? Number one, stop and breathe. I like this a lot. Those of you who are new to this kind of breathing practice, it's kind of tied to yoga and meditation. A lot of times it can be very, very helpful because it, number one, helps you to distract yourself from your pain. Just focusing on your breathing can just help you get through a really high flare-up of pain until the moment that your pain goes away. And that could be all it takes. And the great thing I like about breathing is because, number one, it works. Number two, it makes you feel better. You feel more relaxed. It's really easy to do, and you can do it silently, like in public, if you're in the checkout stand, right? Instead of like going back and like say you're at like a grocery store and opening a glass of wine and drinking it right there. And then in there, you can actually stop and breathe and focus on that and get through what you're actually doing in those critical moments where you may not have access to other things in your toolbox, such as when you're at home. We all know how to breathe. We've just been doing it our whole lives. We just haven't been probably focusing and practicing on it. So breathing really slow and deep and just going from there. So I would say number one thing to include in your plan for all people, even though I would say, each person has their own personal needs. We all need to breathe, like I said. So number two is change your position. And we as humans in modern society, we have probably kind of gotten used to staying in one typical position for a really long time. It's probably sitting, it's probably like laying down, and or it could even be standing. It's just not moving enough. And it's not to say that each one of these positions is bad, right? It's more of changing it up in the variety and doing many, many different things. So what I'm doing right now is a horrible example. So in an ideal world, if I was to record a YouTube video and I was to do it for really long sessions, right? What I would probably do is just alternate and stand and then sit, stand and then sit. And if I had more of the luxury of time, I'd probably pause the video and go for like other positions, maybe even like walking around, laying down even, just varying your positions. So when you're implementing your plan and including things into your plan, and when you're remembering when you're actually in the pain moment, try to think about the possible positions that you can be in. Ultimately, like a large change, like standing up or going for a walk, even just altering it a little bit may be all that you need. And one thing you can kind of combine with that is stretching. And that could be stretching the part that may be in pain. So for example, if it's like a knee pain, you can stretch out your knee. If it's your back, you can stretch it out by kind of leaning down and slouching a little bit, maybe even like doing like mini like twists and like movements. We all know how to basically stretch. You don't even need to watch an exercise video or stretching video. You all know how to change your position in the current position that you are so that you're not just so static. The kind of word is like static, kind of like a statue. And one trap that we can often get into is we probably think we're in the best, most comfortable position, but it may not be the case. So for example, how many of you have woken up from like a long night's sleep only to have a lot of back pain, right? We've been in sleeping position, and laying on your back is actually believed to be the best position for you, right? For back pain, but it's causing you pain. And that's probably because you're not changing your position or moving around enough. Number three on the list, what do they have, is applying heat or cold. This can be very helpful too. It has its benefits, pros and cons, right? It's number one, if it's really, really cold around you, like in the wintertime, then applying like cold may not work. And if it's really hot, right, you can't apply it as well for the heat, or you may need to actually get the supply. So this one can be very, very specific, but very, very helpful for you. The key is to try both, and it's not just one or the other. Like this chatbot said, alternating can actually be helpful too. So applying hot and then cold and then alternating back and forth, or maybe even starting off with the opposite and then cold and then hot and then alternating. The key is to try and experiment and to kind of write down or log with an app or something what works, what didn't work, and then go from there. Like, does it not help at all? Does it even make it extremely worse? Or does it take a really long time? Maybe then you can crank up the heat. Number one with this is to be safe. So for example, don't do things like leave like a heating pad on all night, or like leave an ice like pack on for too long, because you want to avoid further injury, especially for those of you who have like numbness and decreased sensation. Number four, stretching or gentle exercise. I talked a little bit about stretching and that changing position. So that can be definitely very, very helpful. but gentle exercise, right? For what I mean when I think about gentle exercise, it's not like lifting weights, going on a treadmill. For me, the definition of gentle exercise when it comes to chronic pain is going on a walk, right? We all as humans have grown up learning how to walk. Some may not be able to walk at all. You may be more limited in terms of your mobility. Some of you may actually be able to walk really, really far. The thing is to try and walk if it's safe for you to do so. If it's not, you can try, for example, if you're using a wheelchair or you're kind of like more confined to like those kinds of equipment and walking is a little bit more difficult, you may need to put on a lot of like a gear, then try other ways to bring on similar kind of mobility related things. So if it's like wheelchair, for example, you can try pushing a wheelchair and the wheels. And that's actually a really good activity for like your heart, right? It's like exercise. But focusing on walking, just try and just do short walks and working your way up from there. You don't have to go on an hour-long walk. It could just be like a lap around the block or just like up and down the stairs in your house, like during the pandemic, right? Or like from here or however far you can walk before you have a lot of pain. The key is not to overdo it and to bring on so much pain, because what we're trying to do is decrease our sensitivity to our pain and decrease our pain over the long term when it comes to our pain treatment, not bring on a flare up and set us back really, really far. Last is practicing mindfulness. And I myself, as someone who is an occupational therapist, I practice it probably not as much as I preach it. It can be very, very helpful. But like the word described in the tip is practice. Mindfulness takes practice, and it's not like one thing that you can just learn and like do. You have to remember to do it. You have to develop the skills, and it's just ongoing and a process. So the key is to be very, very patient with it. But these days, mindfulness is so huge. There's a lot of research behind it. And even I think the Pain Journal just published a study on how mindfulness can be very, very helpful for managing chronic pain. So really, really like encouraging and positive, optimistic research behind mindfulness itself. Whereas before, like, I think a lot of like Western like medicine and like the mentality perspective of like mindfulness and meditation was kind of like, it was kind of like this woo thing. Like, is it going to really work? Whereas nowadays you can't like find a practitioner, therapist, provider who's like not familiar with it, who doesn't have more than likely good things to say about it. And at the end of the day, you think about it, like mindfulness, like the risk of it is like really, really low. Like you, at the end of the day, if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. And the only thing you're kind of like wasting is like time, maybe like a little bit of money to like learn about it. But nowadays it's like all over YouTube. You can go and like borrow books from the library from like writers about mindfulness and like learn so much about it. So compared to other things like medications where it has like side effects, right? I think more of the Western world, at least in terms of medicine and therapy and like practice, when it comes to chronic pain management, is kind of leaning away from these strong kind of medications and using more kind of holistic approach and combining different methods to help you treat your chronic pain. So in terms of your plan, you can still leave medication on there, but try to include other things on that list. I highly encourage you all to encourage all these other things that are really helpful. I use it every day when I have pain, like especially the flare-ups, not necessarily all the time. Like for pain, I use like meditation, like just overall for my overall mental health. So let me know in the comments, what do you guys use for your pain management and your pain treatment for chronic pain when it comes to things that can help you, that are really, really helpful, that you do not regret using, that are overall really positive in the long term for your overall general physical and mental health. Hope this helps. Have a nice day, and thanks for watching.